Hey everybody, welcome back to PC Perspective. A couple of days ago, we took a look at the brand new Steam controller. We have one here, the exact same one sitting here in front of us. And I said we would take a look at the Steam Link as well and kind of give you my thoughts and early impressions on what the Steam Link is and how it acts. All right, so we have that sitting right here. This is the Steam Link. It is basically Valve's answer to streaming gaming in the home. Right, we have this Steam Link attached to a gigabit Ethernet network here in our office. We have it hooked up through HDMI to this TV behind us, as well as to our capture system. We have it plugged in for power, and then we have the controller dongle plugged into the back as well, so we have access to our Steam controller there. Now, specification-wise, we already talked about the Steam Link. It's got 802.11ac, it's got 5 gigahertz, all that's good. It's actually a 100 megabit Ethernet connection, though it is attached to a gigabit network. Capabilities on it, in terms of looks and style, it's small, it's compact. The idea here is to take this, put this in your living room with your TV, while your gaming PC sits in your office or your bedroom, and you stream your PC games from it to this device, to your TV, with minimal latency and with minimal degradation of image quality. That's the goal. And then they released it in combination with this controller so that you had a combination of controller / keyboard mouse style interfaces in order to better take advantage of a wider range of PC games in the living room. It's relatively cheap, 50 or 60 bucks for this device, and again, the controller is about the same as well. So what I thought we would do is we'd quickly walk through here. Now, one thing to note is when you're using this, you have to use big picture mode, right? Like this is the interface that Valve built to have that 10-foot interface from your TV, big icons, big buttons, things that are easy for you to see. So if you look here, we're already in big picture mode. We have our library. If you've ever used big picture mode on a PC before, it's basically identical, right? So we have access to our library here of games, things that we've played recently and whatnot. So the key here for streaming gaming is really on latency and quality. Can you play a game and have the input latency feel negligible? And can you play a game and not tell that you're watching essentially a video stream as opposed to the actual local rendered gameplay? So I'm going to go in here and load up BioShock Infinite. You will recognize this as the game we used when we were testing out the controller to begin with, and I think it's good to have a common template of what to expect in a game. That way you can judge controls and input latencies as they differ across the board. So here we've loaded up BioShock Infinite. If you see the aspect ratio is off, that's actually in our capture gear, that's not a problem with the Steam Link or the Steam hardware itself. It's just apparently it changed modes and now our capture has swapped some, but it shouldn't affect anything else there. So what we have here now is we're playing the game through Steam Link, so we're streaming it. So all the capture you're seeing is actually what is output from the Steam Link device, and inputs are being filtered back through the network, through the Steam Link, and then to the gaming PC here in the office. The gaming PC that we're running on is using an AMD Fury. It has 6-core processor, 16 gigs of RAM, plenty of hardware for us to get through this here. And I will tell you immediately, the first thing I noticed when I fired this up as I was preparing for this video is that there is a noticeable gap in difference in input latency here than there was when we were playing the game locally. And for a first-person shooter that requires at least some semblance of kind of precision and accuracy, BioShock Infinite's maybe on the lesser scale of FPS games in that regard, the result is not fantastic, right? So you can still play it, and it's definitely something you can get used to, as with most things. See, I could tell immediately that trigger's not responding as quickly as it did when we were playing with the Steam controller natively, and it is frustrating. So again, this isn't essentially a knock on Steam Link as much as it is on all streaming gaming. Streaming gaming is just not meant for these types of workloads, these types of gaming scenarios, right? Despite what NVIDIA or Razer or Valve might try to tell you, there are still inherent physical limitations to data transfer and latency and what your mind perceives these changes should be. Oops, that's not good. And although you can get used to it, I would never say that it is an optimal experience or even really a comparable experience to playing locally like this. Now we're going to try a couple of other games here and see what experience differences there are. Let's try to jump into a racing title. All right, so here we have loaded up Dirt Rally, one of Josh's favorite new racing games, in order to get an idea of how Steam Link works with racing titles. Now, in the past, I would say that dirt games, racing games in general, tend to be a little bit more forgiving in terms of latency and kind of input response latency, because you can see turns coming early, you can kind of adjust a little bit more. One of the biggest problems with FPS games with this is that you don't stop moving when you think you should stop moving. And with this, because of the inherent swimminess of driving most cars, I would say that gets a little bit better in this regard. So I think we'll just run through a handful of turns here and see what this is like. I found. I should have put it in automatic. Now okay, I'll go this way. Now what's interesting is that this does not really use the touchpad over here. So I'm steering with the thumbstick, right? And this is really just used to give you side views and angles and that kind of thing, which is probably pretty useful, but doesn't really take advantage of any of the specifics of the Steam controller. But I can tell that, so look, I'm bad at racing games in general, okay? This feels closer to an experience that, you would get on a console or something that you would expect to play, right? And yeah, there's some input latency on this, but it's just easier to deal with, right? Because the swimminess involved in, okay, am I drifting right now or not? Some of that kind of gets lost. Some of the input latency gets lost in some of those types of things. It doesn't improve my driving, I will say that much. All right, so clearly a little bit better. And just getting used to the button settings and controls on the Steam controller here. I could see being able to play this, again, giving yourself a few laps to get used to it, and hopefully you're a little bit better driver than me in general. But yeah, I'd say this is closer, much, much closer than anything we saw with BioShock. All right, and for our final game, I wanted to fire up something that was much more unique, right? So this is a game, FTL, I guess the name is completely hidden by my hand here from the controller. This is FTL. It's a great game. It's available on PC, tablets, iOS, that type of thing. It is not super latency dependent. It doesn't require quick, huge like swings and action, right? And I also thought this was a unique game to choose because it doesn't have support for a controller. It never had controller support built into it. It's built for a mouse and keyboard or a touchpad. But because of the Steam controller having this touchpad interface here, and then you use these two triggers as basically left and right mouse button, you can absolutely completely play this game using this interface. And it's pretty cool that you can do that. And it's hard to, maybe it's easier for you guys to tell at home, but if you see my thumb move versus when the cursor moves, there's still the input latency there. It's 100% still there, still in effect. But because of the game type, game style, play style, it's not really affecting me in a whole lot of ways, right? So you can still interact with things. Let's go ahead and try to find a place where there's some kind of action going on. I played through some Brothers, and it works fine. In any game where, turn-based strategy games, maybe even RTS games, although those are, hit or miss in terms of what you really think is impactful or impacted by latency. I really am not doing well here in terms of finding something interesting for you guys. But the point is here, this works fine, and games that don't need absolute accuracy should play just fine. Here, let's go to. There you go. This guy can blow me up pretty easily. If you've never played FTL in terms of a management game, it's pretty impressive, and I would pretty much highly encourage it. So, yeah, we don't need to go any more of this, but this works well. I'm impressed with it, and this is like the first time, maybe not the only, but it'll be the first time where I think this touchpad is actually really, really useful and unique versus what is included in the competition. So that's kind of quick thoughts and overview of Steam Link. It's inexpensive. It may be worth trying in your network just to give it a shot. But the short story is rather that they haven't solved any of the fundamental problems of game streaming. There's still input latency. Some people are going to be more sensitive to it than others, and games that are high speed, first-person shooters, fighting games, those types of things aren't going to play very well when streamed across the network. Even though we're hardwired, we're not using wireless, and we have, I think, as good of a rendering machine as you can expect to have. So input latency should be as minimal as you can possibly get. Now, obviously, we'll keep trying this. We'll keep it hooked up to a TV here at the office and play around with it every once in a while. We'll keep playing around with the new Steam controller and offer you guys some more thoughts and opinions as things maybe get modified or changed. We did have one bug with this that we noticed kept kind of going in and out. We had audio latency issues where the audio was maybe a whole half second behind the video. Restarting the device kind of fixed it. We had it come back once. Restarting the device has fixed it, and we haven't really had that issue since. But that is something to take note of. Maybe something that Valve's able to fix in a particular firmware update. So that's kind of our early look, guys. I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are. Has anybody picked one of these up yet, or even one of these? And what do you think of the future of Valve's intake into the hardware world? Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.